Can you hear me? Okay, it looks like you're saying yes, I can hear you, but I cannot hear you. So I don't know if you have to change the microphone setting in Zoom. On the bottom left where it says audio, there might be a microphone. You left click that, and where it says select a microphone, you might have to pick a different mic. How does Dusty know it's not his settings that are wrong? You know what? It could be, actually. Hold on. Wait. No, it says he's connecting to audio. Hold on. Okay, wait. Hold on. Maybe it is my problem. You know, let me check. Oh, I'm so dumb. Never mind. My bad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I had this computer's audio muted. Don't worry about me. Okay, that was my fault the whole time. You're good.
That's the least expected problem that I could usually encounter on Zoom. Zoom hates me.
It happens. Okay, what's up? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing great.
So you're streaming, you're streaming now?
Yep. Yeah, I'm always streaming. Well, not always, but yeah.
That's bananas, dude. So you just sit on and stream how many hours a day?
I mean, the goal is from 1 to 9, but I do podcasts and I travel and I do other stuff too, so just depends on what's going on.
What kind of camera?
This is a Sony A7 III.
Snazzy.
Yeah. Well, how's it going? How's life?
Good, man. I'm exhausted, but in the saddle nonetheless.
Well, that's good. Are you live anywhere, or do you record this like live to tape and then you rebroadcast it later, or what?
Yeah, that just reminded me. I didn't even set up my OBS. I was just going to record it through OBS or whatnot.
Okay.
I don't have a regular cadence in terms of, like going live or any of that stuff. I just put out content as it comes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hang on, let me just set this up super quick. So what's going on in the world today?
I don't know. I haven't looked at anything politically. It's like a long-term project I'm working on, and that's kind of what I focus on. So if new stuff pops up, people just throw me stuff, and I kind of look at that. But otherwise, I just kind of work on my stuff right now.
Nice. Did you wait? Hang on. I'm just making sure that my audio's. There we go. All right, now we're good. Now you have my full attention.
All right. Do you remember or do you want to start? Go for it.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, we could just start with. I guess we could start with like what I said in the video that I saw that you you were responding to. Essentially, the point that I've been making. Actually, I guess my central thesis about everything related to the world now is that there's been like a gravitational atomic bomb that got thrown into every single issue now, which is Trump. And from my seat, basically, the way that I assess whether or not someone's opinion is one that I should, listen hard to see if I've missed something, because I change my mind all the time. And I watched you with Jordan Peterson. I thought that was a great conversation. But from my perspective, you're one of these guys, like there's a few of you guys where I can just recognize it's like objective, Trump, brain broken. And it's like where you guys attribute this like cartoon character villain to him. And like the way that I look at all of this stuff is if you can't understand a person's driving force, why they do things, and then ultimately what the thought process was behind an action that they take, you can't really understand what even happened. And so if you make an incorrect assumption about what a person's intentions were, then every single fact that you're going to look at subsequent to that is going to support an incorrect conclusion. Is that fair? That like if you don't understand, or
yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And like with Trump, I know so many people now that actually know him, because like a history of my kind of relationship to Trump politically was in 2016. I was appalled that he was president. I couldn't even wrap my brain around it. I was like, I saw it as like as like an institution that is sacred to the country and all of that stuff. I'm like, you can't just throw people into a role like that. But what I saw after that, as he, started to figure out the job, is that there was this other thing happening, and he started to look a lot more presidential to me while he was in the seat. And then simultaneously, as we're watching like all of the million different actions that were being taken against him at the same time, I'm like, oh, okay, so there's like this really big thing that's incredibly dishonest and, very dangerous to the system, much more dangerous than him. And so like, I can guarantee that you and I could look at an identical set of facts. And if Trump is involved, we will have diametrically opposite conclusions. And it's probably for the same reason, except in reverse, where you see Trump as a cartoon villain, which I know is not true because I know so many people who actually know him personally. And I will most likely make a conclusion that there is a group of, central bankers that are behind literally every single thing that happens that's negative about Trump. And I'll be right like 70% of the time. You know what I mean?
Okay. I mean, if you want, we can play this game. I can ascribe my internal drive to him. You can ascribe your internal drive to him. And then we can just look at different scenarios and we can see whose offers the greater explanation.
Let's do it.
Yeah, mine is pretty simple. I think that Trump is a raging narcissist. I think that everything he does is in the service of himself. I'll say that. I think it's a very simple thing. Everything he does is in the service of his ego and to make himself feel better and more hyped up on himself, and that's it. What do you think is the driving force behind him?
Well, I think everybody's driving force in most cases is themselves in one way or another, in terms of like, I mean, there are people who dedicate a lot of time to charity. Even that is to make themselves feel better, or feel good. What I see from Trump is, I think that what he wants more than anything else in the world is he wants to be loved, and he wants to be loved universally, and he can't get enough of it. It's like the more people give him positive energy, the better it is for him. And so it's like people ascribe malice to the things that he's doing. Like he's like some kind of dictator tyrant after power. And all I care about is how has he approached the job of being president? Who is he thinking about as he's proposing policies, and ultimately why? And what I see is he wants to earn the love of the people who are in this country by delivering good outcomes for him. That's literally exactly what I see. Now, it might be due to some kind of like hysterical narcissism where he like needs to be adored and loved, but I don't give a fuck about that. Like if what he is actually doing to try to earn that is going to end up driving good results for citizens in the country, then that's good. That's aces with me. I assume all these politicians are fucked in the head.
Okay. I mean, I think Trump is significantly more than the other ones. I think he's significantly more narcissistic than the other ones. I think that people have different leveled interests in terms of being interested in the benefit of their political party, or in the benefit of the United States, or in the benefit of her citizens. And I think there's a difference between that and just doing things just to benefit yourself. But I feel like you're saying that he wants to be loved universally. I feel like that's a bit reductive, because I guess you're saying like even if he's doing charity, he's doing it because he wants it to be loved. So I don't know how different our predictions are going to be there, because it kind of sounds like we're using a similar internal drive. I guess.
So even if he's even in your case, if he's a narcissist that's trying to serve himself, what is he trying to accomplish?
He's trying to better his own reputation, even if it's at the expense of the United States. That's the issue. I want to present the country first, not himself first.
See, I see it exactly opposite. I think that he wants to. I think he does want to cement his legacy and his reputation, but I see it as that he plans and is trying to do that through improving circumstances and lives in the United States.
Okay.
I mean, if like when I look at like, well, let me ask you this actually.
Mm-hmm.
What is your viewpoint on the way that the system seems to attack anyone who's around him, like the people they're throwing in jail? There
I think
are,
he surrounds himself with a lot of really bad people.
so like all of them.
A lot of them, yeah.
Like you're comfortable with them stripping Rudy Giuliani of his law license in New York.
Rudy Giuliani should go to jail. Yeah. Absolutely.
See, that's what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm talking about. That's where, like, from a base perspective, it's like same exact situations. You and I will see it differently because. So here's how I think that the entire system works.
Well, here, wait. Let's go on Rudy Giuliani. Okay. So we don't have to dive into every single thing, but we'll do one particular thing. Okay. So Rudy Giuliani, as part of Trump's whole election fraud thing, he made claims about ballot counting and video camera footage, like in Georgia, right? Giuliani made very specific claims, especially revolving around a lady called Ruby Freeman. He was
ballot boxes or boxes of ballots under the tables. I saw the video.
Yeah. That came from him. Okay. So the video was heavily edited. All the claims about Ruby were false. She took him to civil court afterwards to sue him for defamation. He admitted in civil court that he lied, but it was his First Amendment right to, and he lost that case for $147 million. If he's an attorney representing somebody, you don't think this is grounds for disbarring someone?
I don't know whether or not first of all, I have no idea whether or not those the videos are real or not. That's the world I live in. Is someone can take Rudy Giuliani to court, say that he was that he heavily edited these and so on and so forth, and I still don't feel like I have even a moderate handle on whether that's true or not. Because the way that I see all of this is that the powers that are behind the effort to discredit, slander, and ultimately prevent Trump from attaining power again are literally the most powerful people in the entire world, to where, like Dominion, I don't know shit about
Wait, one
software,
thing
nothing.
we'll do. Yeah, one thing at a time. Okay. So the reason why you feel that way is because people like Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump are trying to make you feel that way. Yep.
No, the reason I feel that way is because for 3 years, you got to remember, dude, I was on your team initially.
No, you were not. I promise.
I hated Trump.
I don't hate Trump. I just hate everything he stands for. I don't hate him because I hate Trump. I believe very much in American values, in American institutions, in American democracy, and what this country is supposed to stand for. These are the reasons I don't like Trump. Not if you support Trump. If you support Trump, you are fundamentally un-American and don't believe in American values, for reasons we can get into in a bit. But if you want, real quick, it's absolutely true. If you want, I shot you a link on Twitter. I don't know how much of this you want to run through, but I can explain it to you also if you want. But we
don't need to go through it.
Okay.
This is what I'm saying is, like, any of these things where we get into the facts is like the way that I look at guys, specifically you, Sam Harris, Bill Maher, guys who I think are smart, excellent at structuring arguments, great at debating, walk people into traps, very good at
You're describing what Rudy Giuliani has done to people like you. Is good at structuring arguments and walking people into traps.
I literally I couldn't tell you a single thing about any of the stuff that Rudy Giuliani has said.
Well, but you have a strong opinion about him being disbarred, and I'm telling you that he said that he lied about Ruby Freeman, and he did. You can watch their original presentation to the Georgia Senate. You can see where they skip at 20 minutes in the video to hide the fact where the ballots are put underneath that table, because I already know what video you've seen. It was the one that was published by OAN. You think you've seen a video of ballots being pulled mysteriously under a table.
Oh, I have no idea what the video is that I saw.
Okay, I know which one it is, because
I know what the video is, but I don't. Whatever impression you have of whatever this kind of massive group of people that you think are like Trumpers or whatever, and how they interpret information, I promise I don't fall into those boxes.
Well, then why do you think it's bad that Giuliani might be disbarred?
Because the guy he's the mayor of New York.
So
the guy put the entire New York mafia in prison.
So.
And no one ever broke his balls about anything until he started standing next to Trump. I mean,
maybe when he was doing the RICO stuff and putting people in prison, maybe he wasn't breaking the law then, or acting in unlawyerly conduct. Maybe he did do that under Trump. Is that possible?
Are we going to pretend that we live in a world where high-powered individuals just get prosecuted for things that they may or may not have done that's bad? That's the whole point. It's like they convicted Trump of a 34-count indictment. They convicted 34 felonies.
Just stay on Giuliani. Just one thing at a time.
But it's the same thing.
It's not.
exactly
Well, it
the
is the
same
same thing. You've been fed misinformation, and you want to think that everything is the same as everything else. And so, if
Oh, I haven't been. What I'm telling you is I have not been fed misinformation because I don't look into any of these things strongly. I look at the outcomes and I go, oh, all right. So, I know about this story, this story, this story. None of them faced any type of problems whatsoever. But this guy standing next to Trump, whether he did anything wrong or not, they will try to destroy him, bankrupt him, ruin his reputation, take away his law license, and literally leave him rotting in a cell if that's what, they decide to do. Like,
he deserves it, though. He lied. He went in front of multiple state legislatures and he lied. He went in front of the country and he lied. He fed into one of the largest lies that's been told. 80% of Republicans, probably you included, still think that the 2020 election was a fraud because of lies that he helped perpetuate. And he admitted that in court. When he was finally sued on these things, he said, yeah, I lied, but it's my First Amendment right to lie. And he lost those cases. Like, it's all a lie.
Well,
but you think that it's all the same in your mind for no reason, though. Why?
It is all the same. It is all the same. Like, on Rudy Giuliani, again, I haven't even looked. I know none of this stuff.
But you have an opinion on it. You think it's wrong that he's being disbarred.
I think it's an example of something that is happening constantly to anybody who is around Trump.
Maybe a lot of them. Maybe Trump surrounds himself with bad people and liars because Trump is a bad person and liar.
Incredibly powerful people who are leveraging every institutional way that they can bring the government, the legal system down on a person that they do not want in the presidency. And maybe, they control the media also. They did nothing but pump out and continue to
what you're describing.
Stories.
Yeah, what you're describing is what Trump does. He tries to take down everybody that he doesn't like. He's threatened every single Republican lawmaker who doesn't buy into his agenda. He'll say, we're not going to help you in your reelection. He said it on the call to Raffensperger. I was a schmuck for helping Kemp win his election in Georgia. He threatened Fox News. That's why they started to run all the Dominion bullshit from Sidney Powell, is because Trump said he's not going to go on Fox News anymore. He's attacking them now because they're not. Remember after they called Arizona and he started going off on Fox? Like, Trump does everything that you're describing. Every single thing you're describing is what he does. That's his playbook. But you're pretending that the Democrats do it.
I'm not talking to Democrats. I don't see the world as Democrats, Republicans. I think that is the mechanism that the people who actually run the world use to ensure that they have vice grip control over anyone who's going to sit in any type of office that can pull strings globally. I think that Trump slipped in the back door because they thought he couldn't beat Hillary Clinton. He won, and they were like, what the fuck? He won't listen to anybody. He's doing things his own way because he's Trump. They start wigging out. They're like, we need to get this guy the fuck out of here. And the way that I ended up changing my mind and deciding that the bigger kind of threat to what I see as American values, America in general, which is I see America as the citizens of the country. That's all I see America as. Is when I listened to, I literally watched and read every single thing about the Russia collusion case for 3 years, literally for 3 years. And I was watching it just going, he's finished. Like, he is going to get buried. And knowing at the same time that if the conclusion of this investigation that Mueller's putting together is not him being indicted for the things that they're saying, then there is a completely different world that we live in. Because MSNBC has been saying this as facts. If even like,
how do you feel about? Well, let's say that's true. Then how do you feel about the fact that nothing came out of Hillary's emails?
You mean Hillary's acid wash server? You mean?
Yeah, you mean like Trump's campaign party, his association with Roger Stone, who was associated with the person who hacked Hillary's the DNC email server, the Guccifer 2.0. I mean, we can both play that game, but I'm asking you, did you feel the same way? Did you feel the same level of resentment when nothing came out of all the Hillary stuff as you did out of the Trump stuff?
Wait, the level of resentment the Hillary stuff is that she had a private server, and when it got subpoenaed, she acid washed it as opposed to turn it in. Hillary Clinton is the scariest person ever. That is literally the last enemy I have respect for her. She's probably one of the most powerful women to ever live. But she is a vindictive, incredibly powerful person that I even get nervous talking about her too much on the internet. But she had a private server where who knows what's on it. I don't like to speculate. But she acid washed it as opposed to turn it into the people who are trying to investigate her. It's pretty gangster that she could do that and not face any consequences. But the hacked emails, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, they'd be pretty stupid to be talking about any kind of like nefarious criminal stuff through a server that's shared by her entire campaign.
Okay, well, I'm not even sure what to say. um, I think it's incredibly sad that I feel like half the country, you included, has just been completely wiped away by the Trump brainwashing stuff. You're just factually completely ungrounded. You're off in outer space right now in terms of like the things that you believe. We can go through any individual particular case if you want. I could talk to you about the entire Hillary thing from start to finish. I can talk to you about how there are standard procedures to wipe servers, including the destruction of devices. I can talk to you about how you don't even care about the fact that she had a private email server, because I bet that you've never talked about the fact that Donald Trump and his people were using private phones and emails, but Republicans never care when it happened. I mean, we can go through any one of these things in detail if you want, and I promise you will be wrong on every single thing, but it's up to you what you have the patience for.
I guarantee that regardless of what topic that we talk about, if Trump is involved, your conclusion will always be the same. Like whether you know this about yourself or not, this is a fact. Yeah. If Trump jaywalked in New York and a person got hit by a car across the street, Attorney General filed aggravated manslaughter charges against Trump because he's a famous person and he should have known that if he crossed the street without using the sidewalk, that people could get killed. So that's what we're doing. You would be on here supporting an aggravated manslaughter charge because the dude jaywalked. That's you hate him. Like, you guys hate him. And if you say you don't hate him, I disagree with you.
I mean, I think he's un-American, and I think he's a threat to the order of the United States. Like, I think he's historically bad for the country, and I think that he's bad for what this country represents. I think that people like you have a greater allegiance to Trump than any part of the United States. That's a
ridiculous. You know nothing about my politics at all. That's completely not true. That's just fundamentally not true at all.
Okay.
At all.
Do you think that
I'll give you an example of here's how I see America. Perfect example. Brittany Griner is arrested in Russia, and you have a lot of conservative retards that are like, let him have her. Let him have her. I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? She's an American, and she's in a Russian gulag, and she's being held as a political prisoner. She's American. Like, we can argue about whether her views are stupid or not when she gets home, but I will always have her back because she's American and she's being held, again, as a political pawn in Russia. Like, to me, Americans are America. And what I'm saying is, like, and I'm sure you're sick of talking about the firemen, but like, this is your guys' issue. Is you've attributed so much villainy to Trump that a thing like a father firefighter, a guy who goes fishing on Saturday, a guy who, doubles as a church cleric or whatever, can be at a rally with his family having a good time, and a minute later he can get shot in the face, and his daughters actually see their father's blown up corpse in front of them. And it makes sense to you that guy is not worthy of empathy because he was a Trump supporter, not any of those other things. That's what I'm talking about. Is like, when people say the Trump derangement syndrome thing, that's what they're talking about.
Trump supporters have spent their entire lives of Trump in office, the past 8 years, making fun of or going after George Floyd, BLM victims, anyway, Paul Pelosi. That guy, yeah, he tweeted out some dumb shit as well. Yeah, about the Japanese will get over the fucking nuclear bombs. I would say Putin over 3 other like Democratic politicians or whatever. Like,
so he deserves to have his face blown up over his daughters.
Deserving to have your face blown up is different than somebody not having sympathy for something happening to him. Those are two different things. Somebody deserves to die at a political rally or anything, obviously. But like, having sympathy for a side that has continued to ratchet up the temperature and lead to the destruction of the country.
It's a dude. It's a single dude. That's what I'm saying. I do not see the world like you, and it has nothing to do with Trump or whatever. If Trump disappeared tomorrow, my view of America would be identical. Like, to me, that's an American father who is at a rally with his daughters, who tried to save his kids, and he got murdered in front of his kids. I have 3 daughters. I don't even think I could accurately describe the level of trauma that would lead. It would destroy their lives. It would destroy my children's lives, these innocent little babies. If that was something that they saw, that's the end of their father getting his face blown up on top of them. And it's like, if you can't find empathy in that, like, where you're like, man, I mean, it means you've dehumanized the supporters, and you keep saying, like, this side, he's a guy. Like, he's just a guy who probably just watches a different channel than you do.
Yeah, it's not just watching a different channel. Like your side is involved in the destruction of this country, like the actual
80 million,
destruction of this country. Yes, however many people are supporting Donald Trump, who is an un-American, treasonous president. Yes, are leading to like the destruction of this country. Yes, absolutely.
And the 80 million people on this side see the identical situation on the other side.
Yeah, but the difference is those people are idiots.
I would say the same in reverse.
I know you would, but the difference between you and me is if you want to dive into the facts of any of these particular things, I will gladly do it, but you'll avoid it like the plague. Of course, you don't want to talk about what Rudy Giuliani was involved in, because if you did, you'd have to admit that there's a really good reason to disbar him. And of course,
I wouldn't get into a fact-based conversation about any of this stuff, because I already know your opinion, and I'm sure that you have
it's
lots of facts.
It's not about my opinion. It's just the facts of the case. It's just the facts of the matter. It's very simple. You look at the court docs, you can look at the rulings. Like, Trump was convicted in front of a jury in New York State. You probably think that that was really bad, but I mean, he went through the whole criminal court process and he got convicted.
And you think that that was probably on the up and up, given that the judge had donated to the opposing party's campaign, and then
let's say even if that was true, what would the judge donating to the opposing party? How would that lead to a conviction in front of a jury?
If it were a different politician, then maybe we could have that conversation. It's Trump, dude. People's brains break on him.
You keep saying people's brains break, but what I'm telling you is Trump is just a historically terrible person. So of course people don't like him. That's not like only a conservative would see a guy who's surrounded by 10 people who all hate him and go, wow, all those 10 people sure are deranged. Like, how does that make sense in your mind?
What 10 people?
You're looking at Donald Trump and you're going, it's crazy that every single person around this guy hates him so much. Like, wow, people sure are deranged about Trump. Maybe Trump is just a loser. Maybe nobody likes him for a good reason.
What I'm telling you is I know people that I trust that know him. And I know people who just met him and spent a significant amount of time with him. And all of them have had the exact same thing to say. All of them.
No offense, but like his vice president isn't with him now. He didn't choose the same one, right? Very few people in his old cabinet will even endorse him. He attacked every single person in his administration. Barr quit after giving interviews because he was so tired of Trump lying about the DOJ. Every single major person that's worked with him has not endorsed him and doesn't like him and has turned their back on him and is flipped on him in court. Like, who are all these people? That's great that you have personal friends that might have good opinions about him, but like, this is a historically not liked person by even people in his closest inner circle. Like, none of these things are red flags?
No, not in comparison to what I see on the other side. What I see on the other side is way scarier. My honest opinion is I think that when Trump got elected and the people who really run the world recognized that they had a vulnerability at the president of the United States, where they're like, man, we can't, even though we have historically always controlled the person who's in this office, now we recognize that we have a global vulnerability here. And I think that what their solution has been to slander and try to destroy Trump's life and make sure he never becomes president, and simultaneously weaken America to a point where they don't have that vulnerability anymore.
Is there any single thing that you could see or be shown about Trump that would make you think, okay, maybe this guy's not a good guy?
Of course.
Like, what would you have to see? Like, what situation? We can do the Jan 6 stuff if you want. We can do foreign policy if you want. We can do any topic, any individual thing.
There's literally not a person on earth that has any kind of carte blanche with me. Like, I'm not. This is what I'm saying. You see a guy who gets killed as their side, like, and he likes Trump, so like their side. It's like such a weird. I don't know. Like, I don't even know how to even respond to that. Like, I don't see people as like, oh, that person's a Democrat, and then like that's where like the conversation stops. I find it actually really bizarre that people make decisions about whether or not they like people or want to have them in their life based on what like politician they like. Like, to me, it's as insane as if you week to week watch like Survivor with your neighbor and you're like, oh, I like Rick, and they're like,
okay,
oh, I like Nancy.
We're talking about presidents, okay?
No,
so
I know
we can do okay. On January 6th, Donald Trump watched the Capitol burn for 3 hours. And he sat there and watched it and did nothing until the very, very, very end. He finally sent a tweet telling people to go home. You don't think that was an abdication of his duty? You don't think he was watching his own vice president come under attack? You don't think that
this is what I'm saying. There's no point in us talking about January 6th at all. Like, just
because you're uncomfortable, because you know that the facts don't support you.
No, it's not because I'm uncomfortable.
Because Donald Trump
I'll say things, you'll go, that's not factually accurate. You'll say things, I'll be like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I can prove every single thing I say. There's like 50 million witnesses to every point that I say. All you have is fantasy on your end, right? You don't have any facts. Okay, what do you think is one thing we would disagree with that I couldn't very easily, instantaneously prove that you would have no evidence for?
I've looked at the Jan 6 stuff. I have looked at, and I've seen the stuff that you've talked about. The cops let him in. You've got like videos
Hold
of
on.
the
cops. Hold on.
How
the
why
first
did
people? Wait. We can do that right there. How do you think the very first people got into the Capitol?
You mean like what was the first attack?
The first people that got into the Capitol building were people that broke in. It was Proud Boys that broke in with a riot shield. That's on video. We can see them breaking in. There are people that have been arrested. I think he actually just got sentenced like yesterday, breaking into the building. We can watch all of that on video.
Whether cops, or not it's actual people or Antifa dressed up as Trumpers, and then Trumpers come on. The whole thing is like people are not. Why you
do you see what's happening? I can't tell if you're aware of your own like mind rot right now. You keep pivoting away to these generalized points. Okay, very specifically, the guy that broke in was not Antifa. There was no Antifa there. Multiple people.
I'm not saying that.
Have said that like these are Trump supporters. It's not Antifa. These are patriots on the day of. The guy that broke in was not Antifa. Well, I can give you the name. I can show you the sentencing. It's not Antifa. None of these people are Antifa.
So you think that there is no reasonable scenario where this was a thing? Like human beings are not challenging to manipulate. If you have a group of fired up people, it doesn't take a whole lot of people to incite them into doing things if that's what your goal is, in order to give you a reason to get rid of Trump and then take him off social media. They needed a reason to kick him off social media because even if he's not the president, he's still too
The people
loud
that made
for them.
plans to do this were the Plan Boys, and they did this over a month in advance. We have all the signal calls. We have all of the group text chats. We have the plans that they'd made in advance. Like all of this.
The FBI couldn't under oath say that they did not have people in the crowd who were there specifically to instigate.
What does any of that have to do with what we? Why would the FBI ever publicly declare where they have an informant or not have an informant? And what is that? We don't need the FBI there. Donald Trump was inciting people. Alex Jones was inciting people. Nick Fuentes was inciting people.
Alex Jones was telling people, do not cross this barrier. They're tricking you into doing this. Don't do it. He was literally standing outside saying, don't go in, don't go in, don't go in.
At one point after, when he realized that shit was fucked, yes, but Donald Trump was marching with all of them
going onto the grass.
Alex Jones was there with the loudspeaker, marching, walking down to the Capitol with everybody. Like
walking peacefully down to the Capitol is a lot different than telling people to go inside. And when people started crossing barriers to go onto the grass, he was telling them, don't do it. He saw exactly what was going to happen. Alex Jones is totally batshit, but he's right a lot.
The very first, do you acknowledge that the very first people that got into the Capitol building, the very first person in was a rioter breaking in, okay, with a riot.
What does that have to do with Trump, though?
Hold on.
I'm not saying
I'm just saying because hold on. You made one claim. You made one claim about how the police let them in. The first people into the Capitol building were people that broke into the Capitol.
What about all the people who got let out of jail when the videos?
What does that have to do with anything? Wait. What does that have to do with anything? You don't know all those cases. I don't know why you ever bring them up. The very first people into the building. Do you acknowledge that the very first people in were people that broke through the windows? We can watch videos on it if you want.
I don't acknowledge that because I don't know.
Okay, if you don't even know the first people in, how do you have any opinion about this at all?
How do I? If there's a pattern of things that very clearly lead to an assumption that there was something much dirtier going on, like cops letting people in, like video.
But you don't even know any of the. How can you have a pattern if you don't know any of the underlying facts?
I do know the facts. I've seen the videos of security guards walking these groups of guys around the thing. And then why is the shaman? Why did he get let out of jail again?
Wasn't he convicted?
And then he got let out of jail when the full record of video footage came out. They just straight up let him out. When does that happen in the American justice system? We're like, oh, this guy's innocent.
I'm not aware of what you're talking about. The January 6th rioter was sentenced to 41 months in prison. I don't know what you mean about letting
out. Tucker Carlson did the expose with all the full breadth of footage from the January 6th, and he was shown.
Tucker Carlson did not give you the full breadth of footage. Tucker Carlson gave you a heavily edited, 2-minute splice of him being led to the Senate chambers once the building was already broken into.
Enough footage for him to just be let out of jail a week later.
He wasn't let out. He served his time.
No.
Okay.
No, the shaman got released. And anyway, it doesn't matter. January 6th is a single incident, and my contention is that it's not. Trump certainly did not have any intention of leading some kind of riot insurrection into the Capitol. Like, if someone goes to the Capitol building and they attack police, they should go to fucking jail. We agree on that. But you're connecting this, assuming that the Proud Boys did go in, first, that is not on Trump as an insurrectionist because he was leading a protest that he never gave even a word of instruction that sounded like, hey guys, let's get in there and go fuck shit up. Let's take this place over. It's like, it's ridiculous. Everything that he said was the exact opposite of that.
No, that's what Trump said for basically his entire speech. That's almost exactly what he said. Yeah.
Then why didn't he get charged? Because you know they would have charged him.
What is having to get charged? That doesn't influence whether or not he said these things during the during his speech at the Ellipse.
So you think that the attorney general or whoever would have been responsible for prosecuting Trump at the end of the January 6th hearings, you think they'd just let him off the hook if he said something that equated to...
It's not about letting somebody off the hook. Taking somebody to court and trying to charge them with a crime relating to inciting a riot, that's a really, really, really high standard, right? You're talking about the Brandenburg test here for a standard of whether or not you can criminally charge somebody. But whether or not somebody can be criminally charged because you don't know if you would like convict in front of a jury beyond a reasonable doubt doesn't mean a person didn't do a thing.
I didn't say did. Well, I don't think
you did. You just presented that as evidence. You were like, well, why didn't they charge him with a crime? Like Donald Trump has used so much rhetoric that was like very obviously like leading. I mean, everything that he said, the people walked from the speech to the Capitol building, and then the rioting continued, and people broke in. Like that's exactly what happened. Did this all just happen on mistake by accident? Like it just happened to be that people broke into the building and the certification got delayed?
Peacefully walked down to the Capitol. He never gave any instruction to go.
He said that
barriers.
One time, like 20 minutes into an hour-long speech. The rest of it was...
Where in the speech did he give instruction that said, let's go attack police officers and break into the Capitol?
He didn't say, let's go attack police officers and break into the Capitol, but he used speech saying that you have to get tougher, that if you have to fight, you're going to lose your country, that it's a corrupt election that was stolen, and that we can't allow these people... Quote, if we allow this group of people to illegally take over our country because it's illegal, when the votes are illegal, when they get the way they... when they get... Fuck, reading his shit. When the way they got there is illegal, when the states that vote are given false and fraudulent information, like all of these things are about how the election has been stolen. They're stealing our country from us, that we have to fight like hell or we're going to lose something.
If I took the text of that speech and put it in Google, I bet you I could find identical verbiage out of the Democrats about the 2016 election 550,000 times. That is exactly what they said about 2016. And everybody acts like questioning election results is this brand new thing. I'm like, I remember when Gore and Bush did this thing with the hanging Chad and all that. Like, it's not.
Okay,
like,
I don't know where you want to go. Yeah, you live in it's like talking to my mom. You live in a fantasy world. You live in a fantasy world.
This is actually like talking to people in my family too.
That's okay. Yeah, you live in a fantasy world. Nothing that you're saying is true. Donald Trump gave a speech for an hour plus. He wanted there to be violence at the Capitol. That was the plan the entire time. We know that because of conversations that he had with private counsel beforehand, and we know because he sat and he watched the Capitol be rioted at for 3 hours, and he did nothing about it. People were outside chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." He was evacuated from his office, and then he was evacuated to an underground bunker where Trump didn't even call he didn't even call him to check on him. Okay, and as he's down in his bunker, he's looking at his phone where Donald Trump is tweeting, "Mike Pence has failed us." Okay, he didn't do what needs to be done. Like the idea that this all just happened by accident and the Democrats have done the same thing. No, they haven't. The Democrats have never led a mass protest insurrection at the Capitol building to circumvent the certification of the vote. That's never happened ever. And the idea that you're going to string together some series of quotes from people and pretend that this is the same thing as Donald Trump giving an hour-and-a-half speech about how every single swing state election was stolen, you will never find anything that is the equivalent of that. And even bringing up Gore v. Bush is a joke because despite the unpopularity of that Supreme Court case, they accepted the results of the election, just like how Hillary conceded the very night of the election to Donald Trump, as opposed to Donald Trump, who tried to win, who tried to claim victory the night of before the votes had even been counted. It's not even close to the same thing. On every single factual level, you're completely delusional and off on the opposite on the end here.
I'll pose a counter vision of what happened on January 6th. So in 2020, the government mandated that everybody stay in their homes and not leave and do all the things that I can't talk about the shot ever again, but and simultaneously were turning on their television and watching BLM rioters burn the cities down every single day. That was going on the entire year of 2020. That's all people saw. They looked, they're burning down the cities, burning down the cities, burning down the cities, burning down the cities. And so in an election where they literally changed the fucking rules for the election, because, everybody's locked down. So now we got to do the mail-in voting, which, may or may not be more secure, regardless of whether or not the election results were legit. I have no ability to verify or not verify these things, but to act as if it's a bizarre conclusion to come to in a completely changed, environment where like, oh yeah, we're going to make this less secure. We're doing this. It's because of this. And then people go to sleep the night of the election and Trump's up by a mile. Then the next morning they're all, oh, hey guys, now we counted all the mail-in voting and look at this, dude. Now Trump's losing. Like whether or not it's legit or not legit, to act as if it's a bizarre
so then do you
conclusion for them to have. So then,
can I understand then? So you think that all the state election committees were rigged? All the state courts.
That's not what
rigged.
I said.
Wait.
I literally said I have no idea.
Well, hold on. When you say you have no idea, that's what you're saying because you don't trust the states. You don't trust the state governors. Okay. You don't trust their. Hold on. Stop pivoting. I'm just asking you very clearly and very concisely. You think that every single state involved, we'll say at least the 7 swing states or whatever, all of these states lied, all of their courts lied, all of the federal courts that had to review them lied, and then the DOJ and the FBI, who are all, by the way, under Trump, all of these people lied as well. Every single person.
Is that what I said?
How can you not trust the outcome if you don't think that all these people lied? Because every single state and all of their state courts and then federal courts all reviewed a lot of this material.
I very clearly said that I have no ability to personally verify whether or not the votes are legit or not. What I'm talking about is the people marching on the Capitol, and then ultimately there being violence at the Capitol.
Hold on. Do you think that the results of you
ever see the movies like where they put people into a movie theater and then they put the glasses on and they feed them like the images that's going to make them interpret the world the way it is.
Yeah,
it's like
called Fox News.
If you put people in their home, and show them nothing but people being angry and rioting downtown, this city, that city, and then they feel as though the election was stolen, and then now they march the Capitol, and then you have a handful of people that help with a little bit of incitement, and then they're going to explode. That's not Trump that did that. Like
Trump was literally inciting them the entire time. He called the people there. He did. Why did he call them there to protest? What are they protesting on January 6th?
Why does anybody protest anything?
No, hold on. Wait, does everybody protest randomly? What were they protesting on January 6th?
They were protesting that they were going to certify the election results where
Correct.
they.
And what was their goal? To stop the steal. What does that mean?
What they're protesting is the interpretation from them. I'm not there. I wasn't at January 6th, but they're interpreting it as this has not been convincing that this was actually investigated and that he did not have the election stolen.
Correct.
So
you're right. So they didn't believe the results of the election. So they went to protest on January 6th to change the results of the election.
Not to change the results of the election. They're protesting the
certification of the vote.
Dude, people protest.
That's an insurrection.
It's not.
It is. You're saying they don't agree with the results of the election because they think it was rigged, and they're going to go and protest it to quote unquote stop the steal.
Right. And so you're saying that this was a coordinated plan.
No one said anything about, well, it was coordinated because Donald Trump, they didn't go on January 5th, right? They didn't go on January 7th, right? They went there on January 6th to protest what you said.
People to protest, not to violently insurrect the government with no guns.
Well, he knew they had guns when he sent them to the Capitol because the vast majority of the people that showed up at the Ellipse were outside of the secured area. The Secret Service told him there were people there with guns. That's one of the reasons why he wasn't allowed to go to the Capitol afterwards, even though he wanted to. And then he sent them to the Capitol to go and protest. What were they protesting? The certification of the vote. And what happens when they went there? They managed to delay the certification of the vote. What did Donald Trump do? He was calling senators saying, hey, maybe we should wait a little while longer to certify the vote. Everything plays into this one narrative of trying to stop the certification of the vote, stop the steal. It's what it was. It's like so obvious. Like every single part plays into this.
It's such a crazy interpretation.
Literally everything from the beginning. Hey guys, we're going to stop the steal. Everybody shows up on the Ellipse at January 6th. Hey guys, just so you know, the election was stolen. You need to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country. This election was illegitimate. We need to hashtag stop the steal. People march to the Capitol, they protest and they riot and they have to stop the certification of the vote, which was the steal. And you're like, and then Donald Trump is sitting in his office for 187 minutes for 3 hours, not calling the National Guard or doing anything, watching them stop the steal. And you're like, bro, how could you possibly have this interpretation of events? What?
Because you're making one gigantic leap that's not even defensible in any kind of reasonable way.
What's the leap?
You're like all the way up to, yes, they are there to protest. They are there because of this. Then you leap to Donald Trump organized them with the intention of them rioting. That's just not accurate. And then there's not even like a line of dialogue that you could say that would even moderately hold up. The January 6th committee, literally, they went through every single thing. They tried everything they could to nail him to the wall, and even they couldn't come up with anything realistic about him inciting violence.
You can literally go through all of Trump's tweets before the day of. On January 5th, he tweets, "I hope the Democrats, and even more importantly, the weak and ineffective rhino section of the Republican Party are looking at the thousands of people pouring into D.C. They won't stand for a landslide election victory to be stolen." What does that mean?
Right. He's saying that there's a lot of support for more investigation into whether or not he actually lost the election.
On January 6th, the rioters are there to investigate?
He didn't say rioters. The protesters are there because they're unhappy that the election is being certified when they feel that the election was stolen.
Correct. They're there to stop the certification of the election.
People coming into D.C., this is a representation of a very large percentage of the population who agree with them. You guys should pay attention because, but like none of that.
January 4th, Donald Trump tweets out, "How can you certify an election when the numbers being certified are verifiably wrong? You will see the real numbers tonight during my speech, but especially on January 6th. Hashtag March for Trump. Hashtag Stop the Steal. Hashtag Do Not Certify."
What about that sounds like, hey guys, let's go incite violence and raid the Capitol?
How can you stop the certification of the vote? How did they stop the certification? They did it by rioting and breaking into the Capitol, right?
Right, but so your contention is that because Trump said stop the certification, that means that he's like dog whistling to the group to go and invade the Capitol? It's a ludicrous conclusion.
That's exactly what they did. They literally did this, and he literally sat by and watched it.
But you're saying that he told them to do it or incited it directly.
Yeah, that's what he wants. Yes, of course. He literally wants it to happen. If he didn't want it to happen, why is it that as soon as Trump saw this happening, why wouldn't he have made a call for people to go home? Or why wouldn't he have deployed the National Guard?
He did.
No, he didn't. It took him 3 hours.
I don't know the exact timeline.
I do. It was 187 minutes.
You need to go home peacefully.
Yeah, yes. After 3 hours of his entire family and everybody else in the Republican establishment and the Fox and the right-wing media establishment begging him, please, and his son even sending him, please send these people home.
Nonetheless, the argument that he incited them and told them to go in any way, verbally or non-verbally, is just not there.
January 2nd, he tweets out, "An attempt to steal a landslide election win. Can't let it happen." How do you stop them from stealing?
How is that telling people to go violently raid the Capitol?
On January 1st, retweeting, "The cavalry is coming, Mr. President. Hashtag March for Trump. Hashtag Stop the Steal." The slogan is "Be there, will be wild." January 6th. What are they doing?
He's promoting a protest
for the certification of the vote.
Right.
January 1st, the big protest rally in Washington, D.C. will take place at 11 a.m. on January 6th. Location details to follow. Stop the steal. How are they going to stop this? How do you stop the certification of the vote? How do you do that? You think just protesting outside, they're just going to stop certifying it?
Okay, do you think that... well, I guess in this case, bad example, but I would have said, do you think that just because people are upset about, some incidents with police, that if they say defund the police, that they were actually expecting for the cities to defund the police? I'm saying people protest things they're unhappy about.
Wait, hold on. Yes, there were people that protested to defund the police, and they want them to defund the police. Yeah, it was stupid, but yeah, there were people that, you think that people that wanted them to protest to defund the police, you don't think those people actually wanted the police defunded?
No, what I'm saying is you're attributing a methodology and an action plan for stop the steal or stop the certification, which includes violence. It's not there. It's just not there.
But it literally is. Donald Trump had fake elector slates made. He was trying to pressure Pence to accept these fake electors from these states, and violence was part of the way to pressure people in Congress to not certify the vote or to pressure Pence to...
Do you think, this is a little bit off topic, do you think that Donald Trump, in your opinion, I'm not talking about the actual vote counting, any of that, do you think that Donald Trump really believed that the election was stolen?
Absolutely not. He was lying the whole time.
So you think the whole thing he's lying?
Absolutely. Obviously.
Yeah,
so obvious.
I completely disagree.
Of course you do. But every single person around him that's credible, the entirety of all of his White House legal counsel, Vice President's legal counsel, his Department of Justice, everybody was telling him, these are bullshit claims. None of this is real. We cannot find evidence of any of these things. And Donald Trump went outside the White House to find a cackle pot of crazy lawyers like Powell and Giuliani and Eastman to feed him these crazy conspiracies to try to make him...
Giuliani's a cackle pot lawyer as of when, though, prior to that?
Everything that I've seen, he might have been in New York. I don't know. I haven't gone over his cases for that. But watching Giuliani's conduct during this stuff, yeah, he was an insane, crazy person, of course.
See, this is what I was talking about. If our base assumptions about what a person's motivations are in opposite ends, that's what I'm saying. It's pointless to even discuss the facts because
No, it's not about you don't have any of the facts. That's the issue. You have a feeling that you've come that this can't possibly be true. I've gone through all of these facts. We can go through Giuliani's behavior in any of these cases. We can go through any of the facts he's presenting, but you don't have any of those in your head. You just have an impression that Trump has given you. And because Trump has given you this impression, you're like, well, it can't possibly be the case that these guys are crazy or
we are trying to drill into a single fact that you are attributing as truth. And that is that Trump incited violence. And you've gone through all of these things. And as a fact, he 100% did not incite violence. And we've seen that over the last 10 minutes. There's nothing there.
Donald Trump wanted to stop the certification of the vote. Do you agree with that? Okay. He invited tens of thousands of people to the Capitol on the 6th. I bet
he wished it was 1 million.
Sure. Yeah. On the 6th. Do we agree with that?
Sure.
He said statements like, you need to fight like hell or you're going to lose your country. Do we agree with that?
Like every single politician has said during a campaign.
That's fine. That's great. That's great. Do you agree with that he said that?
Yeah.
Okay. You agree that he watched the Capitol being broken into and he sat in his room drinking Diet Coke and did nothing about it. Do you agree with that?
I have no idea what he was doing. I know that he tweeted out that they need to peacefully leave.
Okay, so you've conveniently, the only part you don't know is the timeline where he sits for 3 hours in his room doing nothing to stop the violence. You were only aware of the final tweet that he made at the end of the day. It was 4:17 p.m. is when he finally told people to go home.
I don't know what time the riot happened. I don't know any of that. All I know is
don't you think that's important? Let's say this.
Violence.
What if it was 3 hours? What if he did sit in a room watching TV for 3 hours and didn't do anything while he watched the Capitol being broken into? Would that be evidence of the intent of him wanting violence there if he didn't do anything to stop it?
No.
Okay, what would you need to see to think that he wanted violence to be there, besides a direct confession? Or is that literally the only thing that would satisfy you? What would you need to see to think that
even could be moderately interpreted as him trying to incite violence is not there.
Okay, what about Giuliani? What about at the ellipse beforehand? Well, first, we're way past that. But at the ellipse beforehand, Rudy Giuliani literally says, let's have trial by combat. The election was stolen. We're going to fight to the very end to make sure this doesn't happen. Right before Trump comes on.
Trial by I don't, what the fuck does that even mean? Trial by combat is generally talking about one guy versus one guy and they fight to the death in like Game of Thrones. I have no idea what the fuck that even means.
So unless Donald Trump says, I want you to go to the Capitol and violently break into the building, then nothing else counts as...
I mean, he doesn't need to necessarily say it like that, but he has to he has to say something that could be interpreted reasonably that his intention was for them to be violent. There is no upside in him getting
quote, we have overwhelming pride in this great country and we have it deep in our souls. Together, we are determined to defend and preserve the government of the people, by the people and for the people. But I said something's wrong here. Something's really wrong can have happened and we fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. So we're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. We're going to the Capitol and we're going to try and give, the Democrats are hopeless. They never vote for anything, not even one vote, but we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and loudness they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
That's like actually crystal clear that what his intention was for them to march down there and be loud, not. And he's saying, give the Republicans that actually is the exact opposite of inciting violence, because that does state his intention. And that was for them to march down to the Capitol and let their voices be heard, not break in and go fucking, zip tie people or whatever this ridiculous narrative was. Now you said that they knew that they had guns. How, what number are we talking? Are we talking like 2 people that had a conceided carry permit? Because you definitely can't carry guns in Washington.
Thousands and thousands of people.
Thousands of people had guns.
I don't know if they didn't arrest every single person, but when Donald Trump gave his speech in front of the ellipse, I think it was like 30,000, went through the magnetometers, and there were like tens of thousands of more outside. The majority of his crowd was outside of the secured area, and the Secret Service reported the reason why is because a lot of people saw that they had a scanner, so they didn't want to come through, and they'd seen some people in the crowd with weapons, with what they could see. They didn't arrest and go and take everything, but Donald Trump knew there were people with weapons in the crowd before he sent everybody off to the Capitol to go marching, and that's why he wanted to go, but then they told him, sorry, we can't do like an off-schedule trip to the Capitol because we can't guarantee your safety. But yeah, he knew it. Yeah.
So you don't like assumptions in some cases, but in this case, because they didn't go into this area, we're just assuming it's because the vast majority of them were carrying firearms.
They didn't go through why else would you go to Washington, D.C. to see Trump speak and then not go into the official area to watch him speak,
If there's
to stay outside?
not enough room.
There
for
was
them.
plenty of room. They just didn't want to go through the security scanners.
I can't verify that one way or the other, but that's certainly not evidence that there was a bunch of armed people. Washington, D.C.
The Secret Service
like,
saw armed people.
I know
they saw armed people.
You've got a piece behind, shotgun behind you. You know, gun rights. Like in Texas, I can carry concealed without a license. I have a license in other states. Washington, D.C., you can't carry. Like you can't just be carrying a firearm.
I mean, if it's concealed, nobody can see it. That's the whole point of it.
Okay, so again, we're making assumptions that there were a bunch of criminals that were illegally carrying firearms.
I didn't say it was criminals, but I'm just saying that like Donald Trump knew there were weapons in the crowd. The Secret Service told him. He said he didn't care. He asked them to take down the magnometers. They're here for me. They're not going to hurt me. It's fine. Donald Trump didn't care. He knew that there were people in the crowd with weapons. He knew this.
Well, I can't verify that, but either way, if the people had weapons, none of them used them. So they clearly, if they were carrying them, were their personal protection the way that I carry every time I go anywhere here, just in case. Like they didn't use them. No one used any guns. Except for the cop that shot the lady, which I don't have I mean, listen, it's unfortunate, obviously, but like that guy was probably scared shitless. He's got a mob of people coming for. I understand why he fired completely.
Well, I mean, he fired because she was trying to crawl into a secured area where they were pointing guns at, saying, "Don't come in here."
With a mob of people behind her that might beat the guy to death. It's not a bad shoot in my opinion. It's tragic, but nonetheless.
So what would you need to see? What kind of behavior would you need to see from Trump to think that he probably wanted violence to happen on January 6th?
Anything that indicated that at all.
Like, give me an example of something that he could say or do.
I can't just make something up because it didn't happen. So like, I don't know. I'm not that creative. Like I would need someone to like, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. If Trump wanted there to be violence, in my opinion, the easiest way to do that is to communicate with the leaders of these groups of people who are his supporters that might be willing to get violent. And you have someone contact them and let them know, look, if these guys don't, if these guys are going to go forward with the certification, then let's go fuck shit up. Someone has to give instruction to a group of people. Like, can we agree that the Proud Boys, if given direction to go get violent, probably would have?
I mean, unfortunately we can't touch a lot of that communication, but Roger Stone was in direct communication with people like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Roger Stone is literally in pictures with them working his personal security, and he called them and talked to them, and Donald Trump had conversations with him on January 5th and January 6th. I mean, and they had weapons stashed outside the Capitol. There were a lot of arrests about it related to the Oath Keepers, and the Proud Boys were the people that initially broke in.
And so if they had the conversations, and how come no one on the Trump side got investigated or indicted for inciting if they gave specific instructions?
Well, right now, Donald Trump, firstly, Donald Trump has given a blanket pardon basically to everybody associated with him, including Roger Stone. Number one. Number two, because Donald Trump got immunity from the Supreme Court, it's really hard to probe a lot of this activity now. Who knows if any of the original Jack Smith indictment will even make it to court. But he got immunity like 5 minutes ago, and the January 6th happened, what, four years ago? Yeah, but the immunity applies to the same case.
Right, but I'm saying you don't think that they had time to investigate it? Like the January 6th committee, you don't think that they had time to investigate whether or not anybody on Trump's team gave it strict instructions to anybody to incite?
You can cite executive privilege. You don't ever have to testify about conversations with the president. That's the whole point of executive privilege. And now because of the immunity, now even more of the conversations are protected.
You think the leader of the Proud Boys, who got 22 years, wouldn't have given up the Trump campaign if he had gotten direction to get violent?
Enrique Tarrio? I don't even know if he was in direct conversations with anybody with Trump himself. It might have just been through Roger Stone, and who knows what he testified to.
Why wouldn't he? So he wouldn't have given up Roger Stone?
He did. But Roger Stone was pardoned by Trump. I don't know. I don't know what the rules are for like charging somebody if you've already been pardoned. So,
but we're speculating now.
Do you agree that it's just like this is the most obvious thing in the world? So it feels like very weird to like pretend that this is a real conversation. Do you agree?
That he did not.
Do you agree?
Incite anything.
Do you agree? Are you familiar with like say like the elector plot?
The what?
That when you vote for president, you vote for a slate of electors who vote for president for that state, right?
Yeah, I know how this. Yeah, I know how that works. Yeah.
Donald Trump had 7 different fake slates made up in every swing state. He had fake slates from there to the electoral college, and the goal was to have Mike Pence pick the fake electors. That was like the plan on January 6th. That's why he kept saying he can send it back to the states. That's why he kept saying Mike Pence can come through for us. Like, we believe in Pence. Like, Pence has to come through for us. Pence has to be strong. What he wanted Mike Pence to do was to choose the fake electors. That was the whole point of that.
I don't know anything about that, and I can't take anything as assuming that it's true, because the one thing that we have been talking about extensively, I can't see any reasonable conclusion that your conclusion is accurate.
Okay. Let's say that theoretically that was true. Do you think that that would be bad? Can we say at least that?
If Trump made fake slates and asked somebody to fraudulently just pick them, yeah, of course that would be bad.
Okay. That was when he said Mike Pence can come through for us. What do you think he was talking about?
I don't know. You said fight like hell meant that they should raid the Capitol.
Wait, no, wait. When he was asking Mike Pence can do what we need to do. What do you think he's talking about there?
What I'm saying is, in our conversation thus far, when you're attributing meaning to things that people don't say directly, I disagree with your interpretation. So I have no idea what he's talking about with Mike Pence.
No clue. We just can't possibly know. Like, you know that, so for those fake slates, you know that, like, none of this is contested, right? Like, this is all in open court. Like, people have been.
I'm not going to pretend like I know about the story because I don't know anything about it.
Okay, like, you can literally see. I mean, I can send you, like, there's like the fake slates have been filled out. All of that information is publicly viewable. That Trump's campaign, that Eastman Chesebro and people working for Trump Giuliani were trying to organize, or they successfully organized fake electors in 7 different states to get them sent to Congress. That was the whole point of January 6th to stop this deal, was to get Pence to choose the fake electors, or to just reject all the votes because there's competing elector slates.
I know nothing about that story at all.
Okay, well, let's say theoretically, let's say that was true, and he wanted Pence to choose the fake elector slates, and then he also sent a huge riot down to the Capitol to try to encourage Pence to do the right thing. Does it seem more likely that violence might have been like a part of the strategy to pressure the politicians there into choosing the fake elector slates?
I mean, if we're talking about, I mean, a dragon could have come and landed on the Capitol if we're just talking about like make-believe hypotheticals.
Okay. Well, every single thing I just said is beyond verified true. Like, nobody even contests this.
I mean, I don't know anything about it. And like I said, in terms of, no offense, just trusting that your fact pattern and the things, support your conclusions in this conversation, I disagree. That's a nice piece back there. The shotgun. You shoot clay?
Yeah, skated trap, depending on what's near me. But
where do you live?
Miami Beach.
Oh, that is not what I would have guessed. I went to UFC 287 in Miami, and it was the first show that Trump came into the building for. And I was sitting in the front row with, well, not the front. I was like in that close right next to it because I'm buddies with the Miami Dolphins coach, and all these NFL guys were there. And a few of them, I heard them talking before, before the show, and they were saying like, man, I can't have a picture taken with Trump, like, because they were worried about backlash or whatnot. And when Trump came in, the place literally, I've never heard a crowd go that bananas for anything. I've been to a million UFC shows. They cheered louder for Trump and longer for Trump than I've ever seen ever. And so I looked over at the guys that had said it, and it's this look of bewilderment that I can't even describe. It's like it's like they were like, oh wow, I lived in this world where I actually believed everybody hates this guy, and now I'm faced with the reality that in this building, everyone not only likes him, they fucking love him. And it's like, I've said to a lot of people, I'm like, listen, dude, I don't care what you think of the guy. If you were in the building and felt that energy of the collective, all that excited about him, you would get behind him just because it feels good to have everybody that positive and optimistic. It's like you think that, I don't know what you think actually about why people support Trump, but that's what it is. Humans are tribal creatures. Like, we are supposed to find, other like-minded people, tribe up, we battle against other tribes. It's just primal. And as much as like I disagree with people on politics, I really do see every single person in this country as an American that's on my team. Like I don't see like some enemy state on the other side. But the people who hate Trump, you guys do because you hate him that much. You dislike him that much.
Because he's un-American, yes.
But see, I think it's un-American to, to be flipping about an American who got shot in front of his kids.
There's nothing un-American about that. Americans have a wide range of views on violence and violent conduct or whatever. But the subverting the democratic process, fighting against like every single branch of government, saying you're going to be a dictator on day one. How do you feel when he says he has a right to suspend the Constitution to look for voter fraud?
I don't know about that. Let me ask you this: Do you think that it was a reasonable conclusion that his supporters had that there might have been widespread shenanigans in the swing states?
No,
given the
this was
circumstances?
fabricated, made by Donald Trump's campaign. And every single one of these major claims was a total and absolute lie. And you can follow the genesis of them all the way to the culmination. And it always ends with people like Giuliani or Powell or Fox News saying, we lied about this. That's why Fox News lost their Dominion lawsuit. That's why Giuliani and Sidney Powell said they lied and they settled with the states that they were fighting with. All of them did. Every single one. That's why he lost 62 out of 63 of his court cases.
I'm not talking about those guys. I'm saying the citizens of the country who voted for Trump, given the circumstances, was it reasonable for them to be suspicious of the election results, given that the mail-in voting thing happened? Trump is winning when they go to sleep. They wake up and suddenly it's flip-flopped.
No, everybody knew that was going to happen. Every single person. People were talking about it beforehand.
And why did they know that was going to happen?
Because Donald Trump was telling his supporters from day one that mail-in ballots were going to be rigged. So they weren't going to participate in the mail-in ballot system.
They knew that there was going to be a big jump in Biden votes.
Yes.
Because of the mail-in voting. But the reason that everyone knew that is because the mainstream media told them that. And the mainstream media, from their perspective, is literally just controlled propaganda for the other side. So like, that's not convincing that they said,
no,
oh yeah,
hold on. Do you agree that Democrats took like social distancing and masking more seriously than Republicans?
Yeah.
Okay. So they were more likely to vote by mail-in ballot than Republicans, right?
Oh, I'm not saying that they weren't more likely to. I'm talking about, was it reasonable for the voters to be suspicious of the outcome? I'm telling you, I am not saying whether or not the election was stolen because I don't know. I'm asking as like on a personal level, each of these individuals.
I mean, you can have a little bit of suspicion, I guess, sure. But like all the states investigated all their stuff and everything came up green, every place they checked. So
would you understand, given the way that the Mueller report played out and that entire saga, why people would be not fast to believe any official narrative that came about related to the election, especially after COVID, where literally everything that they said all along the way ended up being not true.
First of all, that's not true. Everything, the Democrats of the left were far more accurate about COVID than anything the conservatives said. I'm still waiting for people to mass die from vaccines. I'm still waiting for the mass blood clots and the mass vaccine injuries and the mass mandatory vaccine periods and the mass vaccine passports. Like none of this ever happened. So the conservatives were dead wrong on literally all of that. So I don't know where we have this idea that the liberals were wrong every step of the way. Yeah, no.
On that topic, so again, any numbers that come out, I have no ability to verify those. I wouldn't even get into what the numbers on the vaccine were. But on this particular topic, this is one of those things where I talk to people all the time about, how they view politics, policy specific. And in many cases, I can look and I'm like, this is like a game for this person. Like they don't really understand how this is going to, or hold
on, wait, hold on. Just before we move on, because you jumped from everything. Do you acknowledge that every single conspiracy about vaccines ended up being incorrect?
No, but let me
wait. What was one that ended up being correct?
I mean, the fact that they were, it's not even about conspiracy. It was an untested medicine, an untested,
it was tested, right? There were trials, right?
No, they did no human trials on the boosters. Also,
wait, no, not the booster. On the original vaccine, there were trials for that, right?
Oh, I don't know. There no long-term studies for sure. They did it on the
because it was emergency use authorization, right? Why is it? Did you feel the same way about the monoclonal antibody treatment? Because that was emergency use authorization. Why didn't conservatives protest that? Joe Rogan promoted that.
Because nobody mandated that they take it.
But it was the same type of trialing for
but nobody mandated that they take it. I didn't have a problem with the COVID vaccine. The problem was always with the government mandating that people take it against their will.
The problem wasn't just the mandates. There were a whole bunch of claims made. The things that you just said, there weren't any testing for it. That doesn't have to do with mandating or not. You're saying that it's an untested medicine. Even if there were no mandates, that would still be a bad thing, right?
I'm saying the reason why people were not unreasonable to not want to take the vaccine was because there are no long-term trials, and then the government came in and threatened their jobs and forced them to take it.
Well, that didn't happen. That died in the Supreme Court, right? The government never wasn't able to mandate the vaccine for the country, right?
So did New York fire 70,000 healthcare workers that refused to take the shot?
For New York State, are we talking about the federal government? Are we talking about state governments or
across the board?
Did New York State implement that? Was that a New York State policy, or were these just hospitals implementing it?
No, New York State. When Andrew Cuomo went through his thing of, whatever was going on to where he resigned, and literally the very first action that the new governor took was she fired 70,000 healthcare workers in New York who did not want to take the shot. The healthcare workers, and many of them had already had COVID. And so they're like, I have the antibodies. And they're like, too bad you have to take the shot. And they're like, they're medical professionals. They're like, there's no long-term studies. I don't feel comfortable taking the shot. And they lost their jobs, 70,000 in New York alone.
I would have to look this up, but I don't.
That's a fact.
Yeah, considering every single other thing you've saed is incorrect, I would be hesitant to believe this. That it came from the government. It might have come from a union. It might have come from a hospital. But
it came from the state governor. 70,000.
Okay,
that's why I've always been suspicious about why Cuomo got ousted, because I was like, seems weird. Like, the guy's the hero, and then all of a sudden they're like, this is going on, and then he resigns, and then the very first thing that she did, my hypothesis was like, maybe he just was not going along with the program. He's like, dude, I'm not going to fire the healthcare workers. And I know, like, the federal government, they tried to do the OSHA thing. My opinion was they knew that was going to fail in court, and they did it just to get as many people to take the shot as possible before it died in court. And listen, I have no problem with people taking the shot whatsoever. Everyone in my family took it. In all honesty, I probably would have taken it under different circumstances.
Well, for claims about the health impacts of the vaccine, do you agree that none of those came true? Which thing about that was said about vaccines at the time, which of those ended up being correct?
That they cause myocarditis especially in teenage boys. That's a fact now.
At rates like comparable to or lesser than COVID itself, right? Like COVID causes myocarditis, right?
There are different studies that have different conclusions, but no. And
do you think that COVID causes myocarditis?
Of course, that's not in dispute.
Okay, the rates for myocarditis, I think at the most at-risk group was for like young men. It was like 7 to 14 out of 100,000 people, right? This is a very, very, very rare side effect. And most myocarditis is acute. It doesn't last for more than, I think, a week or whatever, right? It's not like a permanent disability, right?
If people rest, so like athletes that took the shot and got an inflamed heart with myocarditis and they kept on training, that is why there were so many, in my opinion, that's not for sure, but that is a reasonable conclusion is why there were so many heart attacks in athletes.
None of that is ever. That's not true. That's not true. That's not true. That was never proven. Just never ever been.
I said it's not proven, but
it's not proven. Not proven. Like there was no research. There's nothing to back that opinion up. That's just a feeling, right?
No. But I'm not talking about the vaccine quality, not quality, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the government's role in the vaccine. So as an example, once you find out that it causes heart inflammation in 17-year-old boys, if my son has already had COVID and I look, I'm like, what's the likelihood that this kid's going to die of COVID? Fucking zero. Well, then, no, I don't want him to take the shot. They're all, nope, he has to, or else he can't come to school. I have a problem with that. And the point that I was making earlier was I always want to know how policies impact the person specifically. And in terms of the vaccine, what happened to us was my youngest daughter got hurt by a vaccine when she was a baby. We didn't have we had no problem with vaccines until she got hurt. So we got medical exemptions in California. So everybody, it's mandated that all the kids have to have shots in California to go to public school, except for if they have medical exemptions. And the entire reason that they said that the mandates had to be put in place was to protect immunocompromised children. So then when they introduced a bill in California that was going to invalidate all of the medical exemptions, meaning doctors said, vaccines, you are especially high risk to be injured by a vaccine. They were going to invalidate all of those under the story that like someone was writing a bunch of fake ones. There was already a 97% vaccine adoption rate. There was no reason to do it whatsoever. My wife said that they were going to pass it. I was like, that's impossible. The entire basis of the mandates is to protect kids that have medical exemptions, and they fucking passed it anyway. And so we had the choice of either sticking 60 shots in each of our kids that have been determined by a doctor to be more likely to be injured by a vaccine, or leave the state. And we fucking left the state. That's my life. That actually happened.
Okay, that's probably a good thing, right? I don't care what, like, whatever you make up for your kid is whatever you want to make up for your kid, but why would I want my kid to go to school with a kid who is running around as a fucking bioweapon because their parents don't want him to get vaccinated for anything, right? That's why we have, like, measles and stuff coming back.
Why would it matter what they're around? They're vaccinated. They're safe. How would it possibly matter?
Because vaccines work by via herd immunity, right? The idea that you can just vaccinate one person and they're automatically super protected from every single disease isn't exactly how vaccines work. It relies on, like, a certain percentage of the population being vaccinated. It relies on the viral load. So when you've got a bunch of kids that are just not being vaccinated because their parents have whatever political opinions, why I wouldn't want my kid around those people, right? They can be homeschooled or they can go to another state, I guess. It allows it to
What does that have to do with California invalidating a kid who's immunocompromised from vaccines and telling them
I don't even know what that means. An immunocompromised person sounds like somebody that would need vaccines more than anybody else. I don't know why an immunocompromised...
We're talking about high-risk kids, like kids who are high risk of being vaccine injured, had medical exemptions, so they did not have to take
I would have
shots.
to do more research. I don't know what that means.
It's the only state in the country that invalidated medical exemptions.
It sounds strange to me. If you're so immunocompromised that a vaccine would mess you up that bad, I imagine the COVID-19 would mess you up like way worse. That would be my imagination.
COVID's not even in this. It's not. We're not even talking about COVID. We're just talking about the vaccine schedule in general.
Yeah, but you're getting the vaccine to not get COVID, right? Or at least to have an easier time dealing with it, right? So if you're immunocompromised, wouldn't COVID be worse for you than the vaccine? Like,
there are a lot of reasons why certain kids can be more susceptible to negative effects from the vaccine. You can acknowledge that there are people who have negative effects.
I haven't heard of that. Wait, that have more negative effects to the vaccine than the disease itself? No. I'm not aware of that.
There are people who have negative effects. Listen, I'm not an absolutist on vaccines at all. If you I know people who are, like, if you ask me, is the society going to be better off if everyone's vaccinated or if no one's vaccinated? That's easy. Of course, vaccinated. I understand why they structure the system the way that they do for herd immunity, etc. What I'm saying is that the main problem with the vaccine structure is that they took all liability off of the vaccine manufacturers, and so they have no incentive whatsoever to make them as safe as possible.
Well, how would they have no incentive?
Because they have no liability if they
don't need liability. The company would go out of business if you made a horrible vaccine and it got... They would, because nobody would want to buy their stuff anymore. What do you mean?
No, okay.
Just because being sued isn't the only way you can go out of business, right?
Yeah. If a kid gets injured by a vaccine, the process that they go through is they go to like this secret government thing that they have to sign NDAs to get the payout. The taxpayers pay it. The vaccine companies have zero liability. Literally, if a vaccine company was manufacturing a series of vaccines and somebody at the plant put Clorox bleach into a huge thing and 1,000 kids got killed, none of them can sue that vaccine company. That's a fact. They go to this court, and then the taxpayers pay it off, because in like the 80s, the vaccine company said that so many people were getting injured by the vaccines that it's not fiscally possible for us to continue to do it. So they wrote the bill, they passed the bill that took liability off of them.
Okay. Now, are you a military guy? Do you think they should not vaccinate like people in the military, like in basic training, or should you be allowed to have exemptions for that?
Completely depends on what they're vaccinating for and what the purpose is.
Well, they vaccinate a fuck ton of shit.
But no, I know. What do you think that they should mandate Navy SEALs to take the COVID-19 shot when they have no risk of getting seriously ill or killed by COVID? And COVID vaccine has no long-term studies?
You say no risk of. I mean, like, there's very little risk of the vaccine hurting you as well. Like, generally, the reason you get vaccinated
they have no idea. They don't know what the risk is because they have no long-term studies.
Billions of people. There's the idea of a vaccine side effect showing up in like 5 years doesn't even make sense, right?
Look that up.
There have been no vaccine side effects at any approved vaccine that have shown up past 3 months of being injected. That's what I found when I looked it up.
Inaccurate.
Okay. All right. Listen, if you want to chat at another point, we can. I have another show I have to do in like 10 minutes. I need to run downstairs to my studio, but
All right, brother.
Yeah, if you ever want to argue about any particular topic. Also, listen, if you ever want to dive into any particular things, like you've got like a particular study, research, or like where we get into the weeds, I think, because that's where I specialize. Yeah, let me know. Shoot me a link and we can go over it, okay?
Awesome. All right. Thank you, dude. This is fun.
Have a good one. I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Holy fucking AIDS shit. I don't even know. Oh God, it's like that's my mom. That is my mom. That person is my mom right there. 100%. Both my parents are exactly like that person. The whiplash from, wait, so the Mueller report and the investigation, all that was really horrible and terrible, right? Like this is, that whole investigation was terrible and horrible and fake news. Well, what about the Hillary stuff? You mean where she acid bleached her servers and they hit? It's like, wait, what? Fuck me, dude. I can't. There are better ways to approach that, but I fuck me. Yeah. Maybe if I wasn't as time crunched, we could just stay on one thing. But holy shit, Edmund, thank you for the $100. Okay, I'm gonna run downstairs and start my thing with Dan. I had a $50 donut earlier too. Oh, from Edmund as well. Thanks. I love you. We've got a guest today as well. Whoo! I changed a lot of tech stuff last night, so I hope all of our shit is fucked today. Good luck. Be careful.